You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. This week we're doing a special show. We are at Depth of Field 2020, which is the annual show for portrait photographers, event photographers, and wedding photographers held at the Hotel New Yorker down the street from B&H Photo in Midtown Manhattan. This year's show is sponsored by Canon, Nikon, Sony, Profoto, Sigma, and HP. We're going to be speaking to several manufacturers' reps, talk about some of the new toys coming out from the different companies, lenses, cameras, and more from Depth of Field 2020. Stay tuned. Okay, we are here with Steve Heine, the Senior Technical Manager of Nikon. And Steve, you have something you wanted to tell us?
That's all I got to say.
Okay. I love it. So tell us, what does that translate into?
That is the D6. The
It's
brand
out.
new. Yes, we've been teasing for a long time, but it's finally here.
Okay, so tell us about it. It's right here. It's a beautiful camera.
Thank you.
So the big difference is between the D5 and the D6.
Yeah, primarily, I think the biggest, the biggest differentiator is the autofocus system.
Okay.
And it requires a little bit of explaining because when I tell you, and those who know that the D5 had 153 autofocus points, when I tell you this has 105, you'll say, what happened?
What happened?
Well, what happened was of those 153, a limited number of those were cross-type sensors, and even smaller number of those were actually selectable by the photographer.
Okay.
The others sort of filled in the gaps. On this particular camera, every single one of 105 AF points are triple cross-type AF sensors. So they're all cross-type sensors, they're all selectable, and there's 1.6 times more density to this autofocus system in this camera than there was in the D5, in spite of the numbers being less. They're larger. The actual autofocus triple sensors, the cross-type sensors, actually slightly exceed the AF mark area that you see through the viewfinder too. So you can be a little less precise about getting it right on your subject and keeping it on your subject. And there's some other cool things too. Like for instance, we've built in 17 different group AF areas. Mm-hmm. And what these are, if you know, because this is a sports camera in most instances used by photojournalists, sports photographers. If you can imagine shooting U.S. Open tennis, net is in the way. You're shooting across the net. AF marks sometimes will pick up objects that are between you and the subject that you're shooting. This will actually allow you to use an array of AF sensors horizontally across the frame and move that up and down so that you can avoid objects in the frame and get more AF coverage on a subject.
My experience of Nikon, and this goes back for a long time now, is that the Nikon's autofocus system have always been just an edge ahead of everybody else, it seems.
Yeah, the 3D dynamic AF, which works so well, whether you're, following moving subjects, even for, sort of static photography. The nice thing about that is a lot of people don't think about using 3D dynamic for even portrait photography. You can focus on a person and then change your composition any way you like, and that AF mark sticks to your subject.
Right.
So it's very useful for things beyond just the typical sports photography. But yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
Is AF and perhaps continuous burst speed kind of the only directions? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but what are the important directions for these kind of cameras to go as we go forward with, mirrorless coming in this direction and smaller cameras in that direction, and even cropping at high resolution cropping, things like that. What do you think? I think
can I also just throw a little qualifier in that too? Just before digital came into being, film cameras hit kind of a similar point where, okay, what more can we do here? Because every single trick seemed to be played out. It's like, how much more can you do? Like now we have resolving power to add on to that, but it's a good point. You have focusing, you have metering. Where do we go from here? So Go ahead.
Yeah, no, good questions. We did make this camera a little bit faster. As we get better at making these mechanical systems, especially in terms of DSLR, making a mechanical shutter mirror mechanism go a couple of frames faster each generation is a pretty sizable task. There's no question that there are limits to what you can do. We have increased the speed of the camera. We've done all of those things that seem really obvious, but I'm glad you asked, because in this particular camera, the concentration is really on communication and getting those pictures out of the camera faster. That's one area where this camera really excels.
This is kind of exactly what I'm getting at.
Yes. Well, and that's part of the reason why the resolution is very modest on this camera at 20 megapixels. The pictures, not only you need to be able to acquire them in really dark situations, which of course we all know on a full frame sensor, having only 20 megapixels makes those pixels really large, really light sensitive. But the other aspect of that is that the file sizes are totally manageable. Now, this is the first time we've had a flagship camera that has our SnapBridge connectivity built into it. And that may not seem like a big deal, but it has Bluetooth that'll keep you connected to your smart device, so that every time you shoot a picture, it'll peel off a 2 megapixel version of that and send it directly to your phone every time you hit the button if you want to. You can actually move raw images into your smart device if you want to via Wi-Fi. So it has Bluetooth and it has Wi-Fi built in. In addition to that, on the side of the camera, we have a port where we can add an accessory Wi-Fi, which is a high-powered Wi-Fi accessory that's just like it plugs onto the side of the camera. It's called a WT6, and that will allow you to actually set up the ability to wirelessly send images directly to an FTP site. You can control the camera using a smart device in HTTP mode. There's lots of things you can do with the Wi-Fi. Plus, of course, we've even built in, have had for the last few generations, an Ethernet port.
Right.
Because we're seeing a lot of sports photographers go to hardwired systems because the airwaves get so jammed at big sporting events that a lot of times they'll prefer to hardwire this. So those are things we were thinking about that not only can allow you to control the camera remotely, but get those pictures off this camera as quickly as possible.
Keep the news guys in the fold.
Right.
Too,
we even added a feature now. Of course, this camera has 2 memory card slots. It'll take XQD and CF Express interchangeably. You can use both types of cards. But what we've actually done is we've built a new mode into the camera where typically if you have 2 card slots, most photographers will reserve one card for their RAW images and another for their JPEG images. We've added an option that'll allow you to shoot a large size JPEG to one card and a small size JPEG to the second card. That way you can actually be transmitting images from that small card at reduced resolution or at a reduced or compact size. You can be sending those while you're shooting more pictures. So we're even talking about being able to establish a queue of photographs that can be on their way out of the camera while the photographer continues to shoot.
Does this slow you down at all, immeasurably?
No.
Interesting.
Because they'll just keep sending in the background. And another cool thing is we've made a new feature on this touch screen so that if you're in the middle of moving a whole bunch of images and you just shoot a new picture that kind of should go to the top of that queue, you can program the camera so all you have to do is swipe like that or cross or down on the LCD screen. It will take that picture that's playing back on your camera and put it at the top of that queue. So if you had 30 pictures that are waiting to be transmitted and you take one that's even better than those, you just swipe the screen and it'll go right to the top of the queue and send it right out of the camera.
But you still don't have a selfie mode on the camera, do you?
I was going to say, what, did you take the picture for you too?
Yeah, it's a selfie mode, but you have to have kind of a strong left arm to do it. Yeah.
No, by the way, you mentioned that the camera. I have medium-sized hands, and the camera is actually very comfortable in my hand. It feels the ergonomics are really, really nice on it. The grip has a nice form factor to it. And the rest of it's very well laid out. I have to admit, it really is.
This it feels a lot like a D5. One of the things that kind of distinguishes this from the D5 visually is that this new peak on top of the finder, we've actually put a GPS sensor
Is
in the
that
top
why
of
there's
it.
a bump on
yeah,
there?
that's why there's a bump up on top.
Okay.
We've actually put GPS in this camera, so not only can you embed GPS data in your photographs also, but that'll help you synchronize the clock on this camera to other cameras as well.
I mean, there's like it's probably a Swiss Army knife in the bottom of there too, right? 'Cause you can like survive in the woods with this thing.
Yeah,
now.
you
I mean,
can
that's all you need.
start a fire with it. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So,
and this is totally cool. We actually, for the first time, put in a Kensington lock
perfect
hole. So when you're setting this up on remotes, you can actually use a Kensington lock. You can actually attach it right to the camera body itself.
So this is a pro tool.
It is a pro tool.
No, seriously, this is a well thought out pro tool because these are realities you got to deal with.
Yeah.
Totally. So can we jump over to the D780 quick?
Sure.
Quickly. And I guess I'll just start out with my question because I guess the specs in that are out a little bit. Maybe you can refresh my memory. But I've been shooting two D750s for 2 years and 5 years respectively, I think. And why would I switch to the D780?
Do you shoot any video?
No.
Okay. If you don't shoot any video, that's probably where the real news is. But the 780's got a lot of features that weren't even around when the D750, for instance, focus stacking, the ability to do focus shift in the camera. We were doing some of that in the office last week. That's an amazing ability to just have the camera automatically shoot as many as up to 300 photographs while adjusting the focus through an object. So just to get an incredible deep depth of field. The ability to do time lapses in camera from photographs you shot using the interval timer. I shoot a lot of time-lapse photography, and that's one thing. I either had to choose, well, if I want to create a time-lapse in the camera, I can do that, but it won't save any of the pictures. So all I get is a movie file. Now, on the D780 was the first camera to offer this. Now the D6 will as well. But if you use the interval timer where you're actually saving all of those individual pictures, you can actually direct the processing to that folder in the camera and actually create a time lapse from those images. So those are just a couple of really small things. But the metering is better. The scene recognition system is more powerful in the 780 than the D750. We've made it more weather sealed. We took the small pop-up flash off of it. That's one of the most vulnerable areas on a camera. And of course, by taking that off, it's now pretty much like the D850. It's sealed to about the same extent as that.
Okay.
It's got a lot of refinements in almost every area, but I think one of the big things was because we've actually used a Z6 sensor in that camera, the live view side of the house for people who shoot video, that's huge because now this is the first DSLR we've ever made that will offer 10-bit output to an external, to an Atomos Ninja, for instance. So we kind of kicked up the video game on that for a DSLR for people who still like to use DSLRs. But I think as a D750 still photographer, I think there's lots of stuff in there.
So you mentioned the Z system. That would be my next question.
Yeah.
As a D750 shooter, why would I consider, and I am, switching to a Z system?
Well, there are the obvious reasons. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's more compact, it's quiet. And as far as the sort of features that you typically use being a D750 user, I know that both the Z6 and Z7 would satisfy all of those requirements, quite frankly. It's a different autofocus system, but it's a very capable autofocus system. Unless you're shooting the very fastest sports, I'd still give the edge to our DSLRs in that regard. But the Z cameras are truly phenomenal, and the lenses are really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what we
because we've really done I think a great job of minimizing the breathing and maximizing the sharpness across the range, and the Z lenses. I think we just introduced two brand new ones, a 20 millimeter 1.8, which is just phenomenal. And it's, we've used aspheric elements in there so you get pinpoint light sources. If you're into shooting stars, it's beautiful astrophotography lens, beautiful landscape lens. And then we introduced a 24 to 200 that's about that big. I mean, it's really a small, compact lens for a 24 to 200. It has built-in VR, so it could put it on a Z50 body if you wanted to, which doesn't have internal stabilization. but if you put it on the Z6 or 7, it works with the in-body stabilization, gives you 5 full stops. And if you put it on a Z50, it's a 36 to 300 millimeter equivalent.
Right.
Yeah, a little tiny compact lens. Very, very amazing. And of course, we're trying to fill out the line. We've got quite a few Z lenses, not only introduced already, but in the next year and a half or more, we're going to see another 10 or 12 lenses.
What got me yesterday? I walked by your station here, your display, and I was excited. I thought there was a new 500 millimeter mirror lens that you were bringing. It was your 50 millimeter 0.095.
Oh, the Nox.
It looks like a 500 millimeter mirror lens.
It's a big lens.
That thing's huge. You can hurt yourself picking that thing up.
It is big.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Yeah.
By the way, I also make a little comment on the 780.
Yes.
I use SLRs and DSLRs for the longest time, and I'm more or less a devotee of mirrorless at this point in time.
Right.
Okay. Using the 780, I had to do some readjustments because also I'm looking through an optical finder, which I love optical finders. There's a lot to be said about it. However, I learned, having learned to appreciate what mirrorless cameras can do, what I liked about the 780 is that it was very easy to transition between the optical finder for traditional shooting, and then if I wanted to, I used Live View and with the touch screen, and I was basically using a mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
And it was very fluid to go back and forth. So that to me is a good attribute of that camera. If you are DSLR, I mean, you want to break into it or you like some of the attributes, this camera kind of gives you both experiences.
It is. And for the very first time, we now have phase detect autofocus by virtue of using the Z6 sensor in that camera. So when you're touching the back of that LCD screen, that's phase detect. We're no longer using contrast detect exclusively, like in all of our other DSLRs, which left a lot to be desired. I'll be the first to admit. So yes, I that's good to hear that experience, that you had that experience. Because
I did.
Yeah, and actually, I would say that when I do switch to Live View with the D750, which I almost only do when I'm trying to get high angles or this or that, there is a lag. There is a it kind of throws you out of your game for a couple seconds. I've noticed. So
now having that phase detect on there, it's just as fast and as accurate as looking through an electronic viewfinder on a Z camera.
So yesterday we had Ike and Tosh here, and Ike was saying, I asked him this variation on this question, which has to do with the adapter if you're using a Z system and if you're going to use F lenses or Z lenses. And he's like, I'm only shooting the Z lenses because they're that much better. And not to badmouth F lenses, which of course I have and love. And but what's going on with the adapter and this idea now? Are you guys pushing the new lenses? Are you happy about the adapter?
We're very much, our core focus right now is on mirrorless, but of course we have a lot of customers who prefer a native F-mount camera still. So DSLR business is still very good, and we've got 110 million Nikkor lenses out there too. So there are a lot of people who really like their Nikkor lenses.
And is the adapter doing okay though?
It is. The adapter works great. You have to keep in mind when somebody says, "Oh, the Z lenses are so much better, I'm just going to stick with those." I totally get that because remember we expanded the mount, we made the mount bigger and the flange back shorter, so that the lenses now can be designed a different way. On the F-mount lenses, because we had basically that smaller mount, that was kind of the choke point. So they had to put the big light gathering elements out at the front of the lens. Now we can put them all the way to the back of the lens. And so the designs that mirrorless, especially the Z mount, allows us to do, of course, we couldn't do that with the F mount because of those constraints. Not that anybody was even really thinking about it that many years ago, but just because of the sheer variety of lenses that are available in our F mount lineup, for what they are, it is an awesome system, and all you got to do is just replace that flange back distance. If you think about that mount adapter as being nothing more than putting that flange back distance on the camera that we took off when we took the mirror box out, that's all it's doing. It's a spacer, basically. There's no optics in it. Is
it fair to say, though, that if you were to take comparable technologies and lenses in a DSLR and a mirrorless, the mirrorless is still going to perform quicker and respond quicker because of the fact of the flange distance.
Yes.
Everything is just tighter and closer.
It's more about the edge-to-edge sharpness.
Okay.
Because we're moving elements farther back in the optical design that we can reach those corners of the frame all the way out to the edges of the frame. And so the engineers are taking advantage of these new dimensions that allow them to design lenses that are sharper all the way to the edges. And of course, we're still using all of the different types of optical technologies, like the different coatings and, of course, the S-spheric elements and ED elements and combinations of the two in order to ameliorate those chromatic aberrations that can occur. So at the same time we're changing the physical designs of the lens, we're also bettering all of those other technologies that we pioneered in our F-mount lenses, but we're applying that to our Z-mount.
What's the hottest Z-mount lens?
Well, the Nock gets a lot of attention for not being a lens that's going to be all that popular. It's a pricey, it's heavy, it's manual focus, but that one's getting a lot of attention. But I think everybody's really waiting for the 70-200.
Yes, so.
And then, of course, we're going to introduce a 14-24, so we'll have the 14-24, 24-70, 70-200 all in a 2.8. Right. And once we get that, we're not going to rest, but everybody's waiting for that, though.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question. What can you tell us about the D7?
give me a few days, will you?
The 14-24 2.8 on the F mount. That's going to be a tough lens to beat, huh? I mean, it will, but I've seen the mock-up or the prototype of the 14-24 for the mirrorless system. It's amazing. Yes,
it's considerably smaller.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because that thing with the bulb, that thing's huge. Yeah,
it's still a good size lens, but it doesn't have that huge front element like that.
Well, so what's the main selling point for the D6 versus the Sony A9 II?
The ruggedness, without a doubt, because and obviously, I mean, we're doing 14 frames per second with a mechanical shutter. They have the ability to go to 20 frames,
right?
So we're
electronic, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there are certain aspects. The other thing is the communications that I was talking about. I think we've put a real emphasis on that in the D6.
The physical Ethernet and that stuff?
Absolutely. Moving those images out becomes the difference between my photo agency getting the job and that photo agency getting the job. It literally comes down to that. They both shoot great photographs, but who can move that picture faster?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that it comes down to a competition, essentially. You're there shooting competitive sports, and the photographers are competing as well. And I think that we could go head to head on feature to feature and all those sort of things, but I think as a working unit, one of the most important aspects of this is I think we've got the photo stuff pretty well taken care of, but now it's the communication. It's trying to get those pictures where they need to go.
Steve Heine, thank you so much. And again, Nikon has some neat products, the new D6 and the 20mm 1.8 S and the 24-200.
Right.
That's an f4.2
6.3.
6.3. We'll hold you to next time for the D7 information. Okay? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we are back at Depth of Field 2020, and we're being joined by Joe Edelman, who is an Olympus visionary and educator. Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here. It's exciting.
So you and Olympus have a new camera. It's the OM-D EM1. By the way, I always love your naming systems. It's the Mark III, and it has, you're toting it as the world's best image stabilization. Now, I want to get right into the question.
Sure.
Because a year ago or so, we spoke about the latest, greatest camera from you guys.
Yep.
And it had a 6.5 stop image stabilization system.
Yep.
From what I was led to believe was as fast as is possible because of the rotation of the Earth. This is what I was told. Now, I went to high school, but I didn't question that stuff.
That was before the Earth got flat. So don't worry about it.
Exactly. But now we're at a stop better than that, 7.5.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a couple things. As far as the rotation of the Earth thing, I would suggest that you spend a little less time on the internet and YouTube. But
I think it was one of you guys who told me that, actually.
No, I'm kidding. So what they've done is they took some of the technology from that camera. The camera you're referencing is the EM1X. They developed a new gyro sensor for that.
Okay.
And they have brought that forward and added some, new super secret tweaks, which obviously I'm not privy to all those specific details. But But yeah, I mean, you're able to get up to 7.5 stops. Now, there is a caveat to that, just so we're not misleading anyone. Several of the Olympus lenses, like the 12-100 and the 300 millimeter, have image stabilization built into the lens. So that 7.5 steps is going to come from the combination of the body and those two lenses. On any other lens, you're looking at least 5 steps of image stabilization.
Okay.
Without that built in.
Yeah, I actually I had a chance. I just wrote a review on the EM1 Mark III, and I had a chance to shoot the 12-100.
Yep.
And I was trying to get blurry images at night. I was trying to.
Yeah.
I was at like, I don't know, 85 millimeter at like 1/6 of a second, and I was still getting sharp images.
It's incredible what they've done. And Olympus being a Japanese company, like many of them though, but they're very conservative about how they advertise their specs. They are advertising that you can do handheld up to 4 seconds. That's what they're advertising. Spend a couple minutes on Flickr and look up the EM1X. You'll find people that were handheld in that. Keep in mind, that's the bigger, slightly heavier camera.
Right.
People doing handheld shots at 20 seconds, which is insane. So the capabilities with a little bit of effort are incredible.
So one question I have is that I know that it's a given that when you do use image stabilization, even though it guarantees you a sharper picture, generally speaking, the effect of image stabilization actually blurs the picture slightly. Am I right or wrong about that? There's a slight image degradation, and my question is, the more image stabilization you have, the more steps you have, does it change that slight grade of degradation?
Full disclosure, I am not a guy that's into the weeds and the tech. Okay. I'm a very visual photographer.
Then make up stuff.
I will tell you. I'll tell you my experience, which is what I try to share.
Yeah.
My experience is I always have the image stabilization turned on my camera, even on a tripod. I never turn it off. It's
even on a tripod.
I never turn it off. It's on all the time. It's been on since the day I bought the camera. I'm a studio shooter. I sometimes shoot handheld. I sometimes shoot tripod. I have had images from the EM1 Mark II, the predecessor to this new camera.
Right.
I have had images for the last year. It just came down on a 48-foot wide billboard, 48 feet long by 14 feet tall, tack sharp. There's a video on my YouTube channel. You can see close-up shots of it. I've had images that Olympus has printed for trade shows at 8 feet wide by 6 feet tall and mounted at 10 feet in the air. You could stand on the ground and count every single eyelash tack sharp. So I wouldn't dispute what your understanding is from a highly technical standpoint, or maybe, I don't mean to be negative, but a pixel peeping standpoint.
Okay,
But from a practical standpoint, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's not an issue.
Just why would you leave image stabilization on if you're on a firm tripod?
Because there's no reason for me to turn it off. It doesn't impact my shots.
But what about the mechanism? Again, the reason I'm asking is that I've always been told that if you do that, you risk damaging the mechanism itself.
So, no, I've never been told that with an Olympus camera. Never had a problem with that. And keep in mind, the Olympus camera, and I don't know if this is part of the cause. Again, I'm not a super techie guy, but unlike other brands with their image stabilization, the Olympus sensor is not mounted on rails. It's not locked onto the camera. It floats on magnets.
Yes.
So back in my days before becoming an Olympus shooter with another big brand, when image stabilization first came out, I hated it in the sense that the image in the viewfinder jumped because of the image, which to me was just annoying. So I never used it. I relied on old school photography techniques to get my shots done. You don't have that with an Olympus camera. There's no jumping. There's no jolting. You're looking at a smooth image, period. So never had a problem.
And what's your go-to Olympus in the studio? What camera do you have on your tripod?
The EM1 Mark II was the camera that got me to make the switch. For the last year, I've been using the EM1X, and now the EM1 Mark III will hands down become my primary camera. Right. The EM1X for me, it represented just honestly incredible technological advances in photography. I mean, Olympus just does not get enough credit for some of the things they bring to market, which other manufacturers then have to develop. So I really liked a lot of those new features, that new technology. And of course, it was also a quality upgrade. But the Mark II was the camera that made me switch. So having that similar form factor with the EM1 Mark III and then the new features and a lot of the tech that was introduced in the EM1X, hands down, like that's my go-to.
Can we talk about some of the new cool features? I think that are in the Mark III, the EM1 Mark III, and also I think some of them are in the EM1X as well.
Yes. Yep. Well, I mean, I guess some of my favorites off the top, especially since I'm a portrait guy, I do portraits and fashion, portraits and beauty. The handheld high res is actually really cool. I don't honestly have that many situations where I need a 50 megapixel file, but to be able to handhold that camera and do a 50 megapixel file where what the camera is actually doing is taking 16 images for a total of 320 megapixels of information and then combining it is incredible. And
this is with pixel shift, or is this not pixel?
Yep. No, it's doing a pixel shift.
Okay.
But it's doing it very rapidly. And I'll raise my hand and say that I was the biggest doubter of this. It was, introduced in the EM1X. It was a bigger camera and it was heavier, and I never really had a need for it. So honestly, I never tried it. So when they put the Mark III in my hands, I'm like, okay, this is going to be my camera. It's time to try this. And it's amazing. First image I did, I was shooting tethered, came up on a 27-inch screen, and I blew it right up to the eye to look at the eyelashes, and it was amazing. And to be clear for all photographers that might be listening, it doesn't mean that you can have a dancer dancing around in your studio and do the pixel shift. That's not going to work. I was photographing a subject that was sitting relaxed. I didn't give my subject any special directions, like don't move, don't breathe, none of that. Mm-hmm. It was just a straight up.
No, the reason for that is a processing delay. That's
there is a
between shots,
right? Yeah. There is a processing delay,
but it's also the fact that you have 16 pictures that are not in register, essentially, that have to be placed into
together.
register,
and that's why that's happening, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Now, so as far as motion is concerned, mm-hmm. What are the limitations of motion when you're using this handheld mode? Because I've thought about this a lot, because there's a limit to how much movement you could have and still get a sharp image.
So for the sake of a portrait, honestly, there's no limitations. I am not aware of any specific details in terms of rates of movement or anything like that Olympus has published. But I can tell you what the camera does, which is, I think, amazing also. It does its 16 images. So what you get on your disc, in terms of your output, you actually get 3 files when you do the handheld high res. You get the Olympus.orf raw file, which is the combined 16 image combined.
It's the composite.
Then you get a .ori file, which is also a raw file that is the first frame of the 16. So on the chance that you had motion, you still got the first frame, okay? You just don't have it at 50 megapixels.
Yeah.
And then it also gives you a composited JPEG as well.
Oh.
So it's
that comes off the card as you
that's great. So you're coming off.
So there's a lot of
files.
post going on as soon as you hit the shutter. It's already doing your work.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
interesting.
It's doing the work for you. So again, it's not something that I'm going to use all the time, but that's really cool. Some of the other features that are important: new processor. They have a TruePic 9. The EM1X was a TruePic 8. They have improved the algorithms, which were already amazing for the autofocus and the face detection. They're even faster, even sharper. And even though I'm a portrait guy, I got to try this out at the end of December in the desert in Arizona for landscape and night sky photography. Mm-hmm. They came out with a feature that is referred to as Starry AF. And what it does is, I know, trust me, that joke's being made already.
That's why.
It has solved the autofocus problem for photographing stars in the night sky. And it's got 2 modes. One is basically a speed mode that you can hand hold it, and it locks onto the stars and focuses tack sharp. And I can tell you, when I went into the desert with a couple of the other Olympus visionaries who shoot this stuff routinely, I spent the day peppering them with questions so I didn't look like a total fool when I went out there. So I at least had an idea of how I was going to set up my shot and what I was going to do. And they told me all the nightmare stories about how mostly like every photographer that does night sky has kind of got their own little secret sauce about how they get the focus. And even then, they'll go spend a night out and come home and realize every shot they've got is out of focus. The very first 3 shots that I took, tack sharp. Like it locked on, completely sharp. I actually looked like I knew what I was doing. I have a video that just came out there on YouTube. I was really pretty stoked. I mean, I'm not going to win any awards with it, but like for the first time out trying it, it's like son of a gun.
And how do you get into that mode, that focus mode? Is it through the menu?
You can do it. You can do it through the menu, or you can do it on your super control panel. Olympus has a super control panel that comes up on the back of the camera. So once you activate it in the menu, it becomes basically an additional stop on the super control panel. You just scroll over to the right, and then you've got your Starry AF settings there. And then the second one is a more precise version of the Starry AF, which is designed for best use on both tripods and with telephoto lenses. So it's really
Cool.
Amazingly cool stuff.
What about what the Live ND feature? I thought that was pretty interesting.
The Live ND is cool. So Live ND, the best way to describe it to most people is think of those waterfall pictures with the creamy water from the long exposure where you're using neutral density filters. So this is a feature that was introduced in the EM1X. They've brought it over to the EM1 Mark III. What's really cool about it, again, being a portrait guy, I'm also known for doing a lot of DIY stuff on YouTube. So like with Olympus's Live Composite, when I first became an Olympus shooter, it was a goal of mine to figure out how I could hack that and do portraits with it, and came up with some really cool light painting stuff. So Live ND was kind of my last challenge, and what I've been doing now is using the Live ND for portraiture and creating really cool creamy backdrops, literally just by waving material or using a fan and blowing material behind my subject. And you can throw some colored lights into the material and you get these very random, really interesting kind of creamy backgrounds. But it gives you up to 5 steps of neutral density in camera. So it's not actually filtering. What it's doing is similar to the Olympus Live Composite. It's compositing the images so that you get that same neutral density effect, and it looks exactly the same. You're not sacrificing any of the technique.
And you can preview what it's going to look like ahead of time, which is really interesting.
Yes, public service announcement. Understand, though, that if you're going to preview it, be prepared. It can be a little nauseating at times. So it's actually kind of really interesting to see it, to see it previewed. But yes, you do have the ability to actually preview it in real time on your LCD, like a live view. But indeed, that kind of freaks a lot of people out. So,
let me just throw in here too that in addition to the OMD EM1 Mark III, Olympus also announced the new Pen camera, which is a smaller everyday carry street photo camera that I had a chance to Enzyme review. And check it out. It's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I was actually using it in comparison to another brand's APS-C camera, and I appreciate the fast focus and getting some street shots done. So keep that in mind.
And they also dropped a new lens along with these too. They have the 12-45. It's an f4 Pro. So it's super, super small. So on your 35 millimeter equivalent, that's a 24-90, which is actually a really great.
It's a nice range.
Great length. Yeah,
that's a good all around range to have.
It's real small lens, weather sealed.
F4.
It's an F4.
Yep.
Compact.
And that pen just is the EPL10.
EPL10.
EPL10, thank you. EPL10.
Okay, Joe, thanks for filling us in all the new toys from Olympus. People want to catch up on the new products from Olympus as well as your work. Where can they go?
So for the Olympus information, it's www.getolympus.com, and you'll find lots of videos, spec sheets, all kind of information on them. And the best place to check my stuff out is at www.joeedelman.com. And you'll find links to my YouTube channel there and all my social.
Instagram also? Joe Edelman?
Instagram, yep, Joe Edelman.
Okay, and that's Joe Edelman, who's the Olympus visionary and educator. Thanks so much for educating us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, enjoy the show.
Thanks.
Okay, we are now welcoming Char Taylor from Profoto. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
This is your first time with us.
This is. Kind of nervous.
All right, okay. Well, we try to be easy on you. Anyway.
We'll be fine.
See, we're actually wrapping up 2 days of Depth of Field 2020, and you have been on the floor here at the Profoto station. Zillions of photographers coming through here of all different levels. You've had models here in little sets, and people are shooting. What kind of things are people looking for and asking about as far as Profoto? What are people curious about right now?
So, I mean, the obvious thing is always, what light are you using? Is it a B10? Is it a B1X? Is it, someone said to me, is that an A10? And no, we don't make an A10. It's a B10. So, people get confused with the letters and numbers. Sure. Some are newcomers. A lot are newcomers. But some have experience with it. So there's been a lot of questions about the strobes themselves, but also the umbrellas. Yesterday we were using a umbrella Deep Large XL, and there were some people who didn't know we made umbrellas, which I thought was interesting.
Even the ones with the big labels that say Profoto?
Yeah, exactly. We've been in business for how many years, and you make umbrellas? Really? Yeah, of course.
Well, it's raining today, so today, yes.
Right. Okay. And it was a translucent umbrella, so that added to the oh my gosh, wow. So that was great. And then the biggest thing I would say is the air remotes. Okay. People were really curious. Like, what is that little small thing on the camera? How does that work? It's an air remote, just like a Pocket Wizard. It's the same thing. And So people were really like, oh, does B&H sell this? Where can I find it? Many people. So that was really a surprise, I would say. Right. Yeah, and just using it with third-party strobes.
Any advantages over
Pocket Wizards?
Over Pocket Wizards, yeah.
No, you can get it doesn't.
Same idea.
Yeah, same idea. Triggers the strobes. Choose different groups.
Is anybody using hardwire anymore? The PC cords? Anybody using it anymore?
I don't talk to people, but I did have someone call last week who said that they would not buy our B10 unless we add a flash sync port.
Really?
Yes, he was adamant. That was the first.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much. People want to back up. Some people,
I could get that part of it. I can.
Yeah.
Are people more interested in the battery units or the off-camera?
Off
biggest
camera
thing right now?
and battery. No one is really asking about monolights at all.
Really?
Or Pro Packs, as far as this group is concerned. Mm-hmm. It was strictly B10. A few people asked about the on-camera A1X.
Right.
But it was mainly B10. So
I imagine, with the exception of really large studio settings, you don't really need these monster packs.
Exactly.
You could do an awful lot with a small bag of little units used correctly. And all of your, a good deal of your lighting accessories are interchangeable from one. So you can go out with a little off-camera thing, and then you can go back in the studio, and you got the same box or whatever. Why wouldn't
you want the portability?
Exactly.
So, and that's what we had some questions about duo kits. Do you sell a kit? Yes, we have 2 heads in a kit. Mm-hmm. What's the price? I don't know. Where's Cliff?
It's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. So it was a good focus on B10s mainly. I would say
B10s. Yeah. They're pretty popular.
They are.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite light piece of gear down here that you like to use?
Honestly.
Yeah. What's your own work?
My own work. Nikon user. As far as, I'm one of those people where I prefer natural light, but I do use my Nikon speed lights. Mm-hmm. But the A1X to me is a game changer. Yeah. The recycling speed, the consistency between each exposure or each flash, just not having to wait for, the overheating was a big issue for me with Nikon speed lights. Mm-hmm. So the A1X is just beautiful.
You have a lot more power coming out of the Pro Photo, right?
Yes, exactly. 5 times, I believe.
Oh, yeah, it's a considerable, It's not just one stop. Yeah, it's a lot.
So I would say A1X is my favorite to use.
Actually, I'm a Nikon shooter, and it's something I've been considering myself.
Yeah, and the fact that you can use it as an air remote is also someone else. I showed a customer that a visitor yesterday, and he was like, "What? I didn't know." Like he was so amazed by that. I would say that.
Cool.
Yeah.
You have to really keep up on light. It used to be lighting was lighting, and that was that. And then you learned it, and you knew it for the next 20 years. But now there are so many accessories and different routes and different ways of tying in. It's not just a lighting system, a camera system. They're a system now. Everything is talking to everything, whether you know it or not.
Exactly. Even just the fact that we have our own Pro Photo app where you can connect the B10 via Bluetooth. That's adding another element to things. And and so that's adding more questions. People are a little bit confused and wondering if it works with this and it works with that. Can I use my A1X with it? Well, the A1X doesn't have Bluetooth in it, so technically no. But if you purchase the Kinect, the Air Remote, which has Bluetooth in it, you can use it. So it's kind of like a step in between, but you can use it with your iPhone and Android.
Right.
So it's the technology's getting more and more advanced, but it's fun.
And interconnected for sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I think one of the things that's worth mentioning is that, especially with the B series lights, if you are a travel photographer or you're a photographer who has to get on planes, period, and go anywhere, you can't travel with these big units anymore. These big, you can't do. I used to travel with 3 cases of lights. It's impossible. You can't. You couldn't afford to do it anymore. Now you can stick everything, including the stands, into one little bag and pop it over your seat, and you can do it. And that to me is a huge, huge, huge benefit. Just knowing that you don't even have to be away part with your gear.
Right. Exactly.
And just watching, is that my case? Is that my case?
Right.
They start coming off of it. So, it's pretty cool. Any other thoughts about anything?
We had a few people who are rentals customers, and they're like, I'm always renting the B1X. I think I'm just going to make the plunge and just get the B10. It's just so great. Like the ease of use of it really stood out to people. You really don't have to think too much, specifically because of the TTL, obviously. But just navigating through the menu structure, it's just so simple. So I would say that there are some people who are used to renting who will no longer be doing that. They will be purchasing a B10. So That was interesting.
That's another thing that's also worth mentioning is that any place that rents photo gear rents Profoto.
Right.
I don't know of any other manufacturer that could say that really.
Exactly. Yeah, so many people call like into, customer support and they ask me, well, which one should I get? Why don't you rent it?
Yeah.
It's not just one day. That's it. Try it out. It's really easy, but like you said, does it work for your workflow? Just that's it. So,
Char Taylor, Profoto, thank you so much for joining us today. Pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and we come back more from Depth of Field 2020.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
We are at Depth of Field 2020, and our guest right now is Casey Krugman, who is with Luxley, RGB Creative made in Norway. Welcome.
Yes, made in Norway. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Anyway, Luxley, those are LED lights, and you guys have been doing gangbusters here with some new products. Tell us about it.
Well, the light that we're debuting right now is our new 2 foot by 1 foot fixture we call the Taiko, which is a gigantic Japanese drum. You may have seen it when they, perform on stage and they're just hitting this huge, like 10-foot diameter drum with giant wooden sticks.
When I enter in the morning, they usually hit one of those things as I punch in the morning.
Is that what that noise is?
Yeah, that's it.
I've been wondering about that. I mean, it is loud.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
I've heard that.
How similar to a gong is it?
There were people asking me asking if I was going to make it a gong, but you can't call it a gong because it's not round. Yeah. So I have my own. I have the entire thing mapped out in terms of instruments. My music teacher would be just so happy that I remembered the names of all of these different instruments.
Do you suggest the names? Or is that your call usually?
Yeah, the viola was all of them. I really painted myself into a corner when we did the timpani because the timpani, I was like, oh well. And then I was like, oh, it's a 1 by 1. Yeah, of course it's a timpani. Right. They said, oh, well, we need a 2 by 1. Oh, cool. All right.
Now we need. Now, how many lights does Luxley offer now?
So right now we are offering 4 lights, starting with our smallest, which is the Viola Mark II, which is our 5-inch panel. Then we have our cello, which is our 10-inch panel. And then our timpani, which is a 1 by 1, and our taiko, which is our 2 by 1. The thing that we really strive for is to make sure that no matter which light you get, it's all going to work the same way. All of them have Bluetooth built in. All of them are going to be RGBAW systems. The 2 of the lights are going to work a little bit differently just in terms of the way the LEDs are constructed, but they are going to offer the same color saturation, the same white color range from 2800 to 3000 Kelvin in the larger units, 3 to 10,000 in the smaller units. Full saturation RGB, 150 built-in digital gel filters with variable color temperature, white point underneath it.
Yeah, we got one going here right now in the studio.
Yeah.
I heard you talking to Alan a bit about the way the lights, the color adjusts. Can you kind of sum that up for us a little bit?
So there are a lot of different ways to, use RGB and the 2 sources of white light. We refer to it as RGBAW, stands for amber and white. The amber being more of a tungsten color temperature, 3000 to 3200 Kelvin, and the white, which is more of a traditional daylight, 5600 Kelvin area. So there are a lot of different types of light out there that will do an RGB and 2 types of white light situation. And what they'll do is they'll shoot out the white light and the RGB and mix that all in against a hard diffuser, like a very almost opaque diffuser system. And then the diffuser actually becomes your emitter board. That is your source of light. The way that we do it is we actually build the color temperature and the different types of color on each individual LED, which is how we can make the smaller light units where you can have it very, very thin. and you don't need a diffuser. It's always nice to use a diffuser, but you don't need to. On the Tyco, actually, it comes with one diffuser. It's a little bit of a separated panel. So the diffuser it comes with, you get about 9,800 lux. When you remove the diffuser panel, it jumps up to 15,500 lux at a similar distance. So if you really need the punch, you can do it, which is one of the advantages of the system.
So each lamp is essentially a self-contained unit with all of the colors built in.
Yep, and each of them, when you watch it and you work through it, you will see all of those elements light up at some point. The booth that we have set up here at Depth of Field, we actually have 2 lights set up just side by side of the model, and they are cycling through all of the RGB spectrum, and they're cycling at complementary ends. So over the 20-second cycle period, you will have just constant variability of colors, but they'll always be mixing in a very interesting way.
And that's something that anybody can do. You can just set that up on the back of the
you can absolutely set that up. We offer it through our Composer app, which we started out with the Conductor app, and then we did a complete redesign and added in a ton of new functionality. And so we had to advertise how much more you could do. So we called it the Composer. And so you're still able to do all of your controls. You're able to connect up to 9 lights simultaneously. I say that depends on the mobile device, of course, because everybody has slightly different hardware. But along with all of the controls, you're able to save them now. You're able to upload them to the cloud and download them onto any device. The user interface is exactly the same in iOS and Android. And one of the new features in this, in the app, we call sequence mode. And what you're able to do is control any of your lights, and you can take any of your custom presets that you set, and then you can assign it to either all lights, one light, groups of lights, and then you can set that up to be timed or manually driven. And so you can time things out specifically, you can speed it up, you can slow it down. And we have a couple of new features that are going to be coming up in a future release, which are going to add even more functionality to it.
And how much of the controls are only on the app? A good amount of them? Or?
No, I mean, it depends on the fixture. Obviously, with the smaller units, there's not a lot of real estate.
Right.
In order to be able to, for instance, on the Viola Mark II, it does have the 10 special effects built in. If you want to customize those, you have to go to the app to really customize it, because we don't have enough room on the screen to actually allow you to do that without going through 10 different things.
Wow. Sounds like a really incredible app. I mean, in terms of its functionality.
We tried very hard, and we were very, very lucky over the time that we've developed it, because the developer and the programmer for the actual app is also the person that does the firmware engineering for each of the lights. So the nice thing is he knows everything, and so it's very easy for him to do things.
He could work globally on it.
Exactly. I mean, all of the engineering and manufacturing is over in Norway, and they're a great group of guys. It gets really annoying when they correct me on my English, but
great guys.
I mean, it's offensive, but they're great. And I drive them crazy every once in a while with very, very silly ideas. They're engineers, and I'm like, oh, well, what if it does this? And they're like, no.
Well, think about it.
Well, so you ever ask them, what do they know from daylight? It's dark there half the time.
Well,
it's like, what do they know from daylight?
Well, but during the summer, then it's light there all the time.
That's
so
true.
they gotta just make sure they get it in while they can.
Honestly, I mean, if they're getting that range of daylight in the summertime, they're seeing the whole color spectrum.
Exactly. Yes.
And over a longer amount of time, they can study it.
And then they go really, really up north, like near the Russian border, and they can get the northing lights all the time.
There you go.
And that is, those are always gorgeous.
You were here a couple of years ago, I think, at Hero Optic, I forget, and I think there was 1 or 2 lights at that point. But since then, I know these lights have won awards. They've kind of shot to the top in terms of
you're bulldozing the market.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And after that incredible amount of initial success, what was the next light? What was the next kind of step from there to kind of capitalize on the success?
I mean, the biggest one. So when we won the Lucy Technical Award for the cello, we had just released the timpani as well. So we had our 1x1, we had our 10-inch. The next light after that, and what we were developing at the time, was actually the Mark II of our original Viola. And that was the Viola always is the first one. So whenever a new wave of tech comes out, the Viola is the first system that gets it because it, she has a personal place in my heart. She's the first one.
That's first love. Yeah.
Yeah. We spent 2 years just on the development of that system.
You're starting to cry. I could see.
I am. Yeah. It's I don't mean to string you along. I'm sorry. The puns are not going to get me. But yeah, so on the cello and the timpani, they were 4-die LEDs. So they had one type of white light and then red, green, and blue all built into a single diode. Now on the Viola Mark II, as well as the Tyco, it's 5-die. So it's both types of white light and RGB built into a single diode. So now it's all right in one chip. So you get full panel coverage no matter what you're doing. So the Viola Mark II was the first one to do that. And then I said, well, if we're going to upgrade the LEDs, then we got to bring it up with the rest of the system. So it's got to have filters and it's got to have special effects. They were not happy with me when I first did that.
That means you're doing your job. That's good.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I have a question for you. We're overlooking the shooting area here at Depth of Field, and there are, about a half a dozen manufacturers of lighting, and a majority of them now are LED, whereas if you go back 5 years ago, it was not the case. So LEDs have gotten past all of their original limitations of brightness, color consistency. There was a whole bunch of issues with early LED technology, and we've obviously come a long way. What are the big hurdles you have to hit right now? And aside from you always want to have more and more light, but what are the big problems right now or issues?
Well, one of them is always just maintaining accuracy. In a Tyco, we have over 1,500 individual LEDs. So going through, and when these get constructed, they go through 2 rounds of what they call burn-in for an hour, where it's just left on at 100% and it cycles just to make sure that everything's a good color temperature. It then goes through its first round of calibration. They are all calibrated at the factory, and actually we give you the photometric data sheet, which shows you exactly how that particular fixture performs. And then they do another round of burn-in, and then they do another round of calibration just to make sure that everything is as accurate as it can possibly be. But it's 1,500 individual LEDs, so that's a lot to make sure still goes through that process and does it. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest ones is, one of the biggest things we're running up against, and just the balance that we have to strike, is efficiency of power versus output. Because we could make this a 500 watt fixture or something along those lines, and we could just blast output. But at the same time, we want it, I was always a field shooter. I did documentary work, I did short work, and when I was teaching, I would teach kids out in the field. And I'm used to running with tungstens, and some LEDs, when I was starting to come up, that's when LEDs were starting to come in. But, I like the idea of being able to take things in and out of the studio and being able to just use them constantly, regardless of your power situation. And so, if there's ever a trade-off that I have to make between, you'll get X amount of more lux out of this versus, you're not going to be able to use battery power, I will always go for the more efficient option, because that keeps me shooting longer, keeps me shooting further away from anything that I'm doing, and it gives me the greatest range of options. I mean, that's really one of the things that I was trying to accomplish with this system when we started development back in 2014 was when we started development on this. It's just about options, and it's about giving the user base all of the options that they possibly can without having to carry gel rolls with them, without having to carry a whole bunch of different gear. It's just, I want you to do your job, and I want you to be able to work it and work with it and not have to think about it, which was one of the things we spent a long time developing, was the user interface on the actual light. When you working with CCT, we give you little step markers that show what the standard color temperature you would see on cameras. Like, we use those same icons. On the cello, when you start using colors, it actually shows you a color spectrum, and it gives you a little dial showing you where you are and what you're doing. And then it gives you a little preview window. So it was all these things. I've known lights, I've dealt with lights, and I've dealt with different systems, but the ones that I don't have to think about were always the ones that I loved. And if I don't have to relearn a new language to use a piece of equipment, that is always going to go with me because I don't have to think about it. And it just gets me back to work. I don't have to then change my brain and figure out what an engineer was calling the certain thing that I wanted to do.
And I guess wrapping up a little bit, what's next? Can you talk about what you're thinking about, or what's anything that's on the horizon?
So, because it's you guys, sure.
Yeah, it's just between us.
Yeah, just between us.
No one will hear it.
Yeah.
So how long has this one been out?
So the Tyco has been out for it's about a month at this point.
So it is new.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is brand new. We are working on a couple of new things. We are working on upgrades. We're looking into technology upgrades. On a base level, just in terms of Bluetooth, we're going to start moving things to Bluetooth 5.
Okay.
Some of it might be extended range. We've been playing around with extended range, which puts the range of wireless from 30 feet to 100 feet. So we're playing around with that tech. The biggest new one that's going to come out is actually using the Composer, and it's going to be firmware updates for all of the lighting systems. We're going to release crossfading in sequence. So now what you're going to be able to do is set up one color to the other, set up a duration, and it will go through a hue spectrum, or it will go from a color to a color temperature. It will go one mode to the other. Effects is a little wonky because that's a completely different system, but in terms of color temperature, you're now able to set up a smooth transition between two different settings.
And who is using a transition like that for their work? I mean, what's
I imagine for video pans and things like that, you could do a lot of
for video, and if you're doing any sort of live stuff, then color transition would be good. If we're at a photography event. So, I mean, just thinking about the setup we have down in the booth right now, it's giving you options.
Yeah.
You can sit there and you can fade in if you want to set it between two colors specifically. You can do that. If you're setting up a photo booth at an event or a wedding or anything like that, you have something that will easily change and shift colors and give you the direction you want. And then you'll be able to control different lights and set off different things at different intervals. So you can really time things down and get it exactly the way you want it.
Sounds good.
I have a quick question. Are there other companies that are copying the multicolored diode thing now? Is that like something you guys are worried about?
I mean, is it something I'm worried about constantly? I got to be honest. But at the same time, there are a couple of things that there are a couple of things that they've tried to copy and they haven't been able to. The most important part of the base technology is the way that we calculate the light output. And that is actually a patented process and algorithm developed by the lead engineer and, the guy that really put the science and the electrical together. Gotcha. He was the one that came up with the science behind it. And that is a patented tech. And the other thing is the user interface. The user interface, I have seen some of the elements that we built in other systems. I have seen everybody moving away from just numerical, like LCD readouts, to suddenly everybody has a very nice screen. And some of them, I will be completely honest, have a very, very nice user interface. And some of it I wish we had done, but they did it very, very well. And so I've seen the effect that I like to think we are having on the market. I like to think I'm seeing us growing, and I like to think when it comes to a lot of the competition, we can be a little annoying because we are suddenly suddenly in the market.
You came up real fast.
Yeah, we've worked really hard on this system. So it is it's been a labor of love, and it's a lot of fun working with the team that I do and building what we do and being able to talk to people about it is always a joy for me.
It's great to see. It's been great to watch the success from the sidelines too. So congratulations.
Okay, Casey Luxley, and of course it's available at B&H Photo. Operators are standing by. Okay, we are back at Depth of Field 2020 here in New York City. Joining us now is Chelsea Kyle, and she's here on behalf of Canon Cameras. She is a food and still life photographer, and you are doing demos and speaking to all of the eager learners here today, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Very good. What was your talk about, if we may ask?
It was the basics of photography or food photography, but then also a lot about my process and what I do as an artist and my specific gear setup and how I navigate the different fields of editorial, advertising, etc.
And how'd you find your way into food photography? That's a very specific...
Yes, it is. It definitely was not what I originally went to school for, but I did go to photo school.
Let me guess, macro psychology or something like that. We've had a lot of doctors and scientists turn photographers come through here lately.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's never been science related, but who knows? I had an internship outside of school with Boston Magazine. That's where I went to school, New England School of Photography, which RIP, they're graduating their last class this year.
Oh, really? It's another one? Wow. Okay.
But excellent program. And I was able to intern at Boston Magazine when I was there. Then got familiar with the food scene in Boston and shooting restaurants and really fell in love with that. And I moved to New York 5 years ago to take a job at Condé Nast, where I was full-time with Epicurious and Bon Appetit magazine. So
you really are food-oriented there, Phil.
Yes.
That's really good.
You had a full-time staff job shooting
I did,
food?
yeah. And
That's
then
incredible.
I quit 6 months ago, and now I'm on my own, and I've got an agent, and it's great.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful. That's really good.
So did you do demos today here? Did you set up stuff and shoot it, or
Yes,
just more talking?
just like a basic setup down there to show people kind of, what basic lighting they can do, and talking about composition, camera angles, which lenses Canon has that are best for minimal distortion, and especially with food. Like I was just talking to people about how I approach shooting food from perspectives that I think it should look as real as possible, and using the equipment to make sure you're not distorting anything, or it kind of, the more you're putting the photo into a real scenario, it allows the viewer to be present with that image and enjoy it.
With color rendition, and you can talk Canon or compare it to other cameras and other systems, but how important is it for you to be accurate, and is there an accurate food color, let's say, of an apple or a banana? I mean, is it about getting that apple exactly as close to the red that apple is, or is there something else you'd kind of look for?
I'd say it's less about the accuracy of the apple and more about when does it look appetizing. Because if anything, food-wise, you can skew warmer or cooler depending on the vibe you're going for, but
seems to me you'd want natural
foods.
Straight color really is what you're going for, right?
Yes and no. It depends on when we're trying to illustrate a story of, say, it's the afternoon and this is a meal that you would have with
romantic dinner, you want it warmer,
yes,
okay.
Or morning and it's you have sun coming through your window and you're illustrating that very specific color.
Lighting, what are you using, strobe or LED? Where are you?
I use strobes primarily, yeah.
Okay.
And I do incorporate a little bit of continuous light when doing motion. There's a lot of need now, especially in the food world, for an option of a GIF. Or since we're on tripod, we're shooting so many options. Yeah. Why not just fire a couple where we pull a bite away or take a chip out or something, and that can easily be turned into another asset. So
gotcha. Okay.
If it's a really fast GIF and they want, I can still do it with strobes, but there are times where it's easier to use continuous light. So you're not waiting for the strobes to...
Sure. Yeah, interesting. All right, let's jump over then and talk a little bit about the gear, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
You're here on behalf of Canon. I guess you've been shooting with Canon for a while. Did they come to you? Did you go to them? How did the relationship begin?
I went to them, actually. I'm just, a very big advocate for being as involved in the photo community as possible. Being a part of these events and things like this really helps to encourage other photographers. I know I used to go to them and really loved it. And so, getting involved and also just being able to be, one step closer to the new products and the things I'm working with. So that's important.
Anything excites you about what's new in terms of what you might want to get?
Yes. Well, Canon just came out with the 1DX Mark III, which has a couple of more frames per second than the previous model, which is huge for me when I'm, like I said, I'm shooting a lot of these stop motion GIFs, and being able to either use more frames or have the luxury of having multiple options when you're culling the frames out to make these GIFs.
Those little subtleties.
It really helps to make that process easier. And yeah, I think GIFs being done well, you need as much information as possible. And like, especially with food and drinks, there's so much like micro movements happening that
I noticed on just in glancing at your Instagram, there's a couple of really nice shots of liquid movements and things like that you really captured well.
Very big into splashes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's good. That's how you have to be able to. Who wants to just see the drink just sitting there in the cup? Nobody.
Exactly. Make it interesting.
All right, so you generally always shoot with the flagship big cameras.
Well, that for the 1DX for motion or GIFs, but the 5DS is my primary studio camera because of the fact that the 50 megapixel sensor really helps me. I work for a lot of editorial companies. I work for a lot of people who are doing social media ads. Sometimes these photos have to be repurposed in a bajillion different ways. They're getting cropped 4x5s, and there are a banner as a 10x1, and then there's something else. And having that file quality and being able to crop so much on these images and still have such an incredible image has just been like a game changer for my process.
Are you called upon to kind of know what they're going to be doing with these photos ahead of time, or do you kind of just pass over the package and then let them work it out later if they're going to put it to?
I'd say a lot of it's workshopped on set. So it's stuff that like I will know and have to plan for. I don't think that it's never like handing off just a large file and letting them go crazy with it. But I think it's more of like a thing that I'm able to offer them as a solution to a crazy shot list. We can skim the fat here and use this image twice and do that. And
Gotcha. So you're working with the editors as well and the designers often. Oh, that's great.
Definitely.
And I guess that comes from being on staff. That gave you some of that experience because you guys are all in the same space and working regularly like that. Interesting.
Yes. When I was at Conde, I was shooting, producing. I was part of from the ideas being created to me actually making the shoot happen. So
concept to completion.
It was a lot.
That's great. That's wonderful. And also rare, right? I mean, in this day and age to have a staff job is wonderful. As you walk away from it. but that's because you could. That's great. And lens-wise, what do you normally shoot with? What you go to? And what are you hoping to use in the future?
Yeah, well, my two favorites are the 24-70 and the 85 millimeter. I would say I probably off the bat go with 85, just because it's so sharp. Again, that distortion factor is very little, and I don't really have to worry about putting things in the corner and then them getting crazy. The only problem is the distance. So when I get closer than 2 feet, I'm switching to the 24-70.
Let me ask you, you with distortion, have you tried any of the perspective lenses that Canon makes? They make a great selection.
They do.
And did that work for you? Or
it's definitely doable in a situation where I have more time. A lot of times, I think it's the fast moving pace of the.
Yeah, but if you're shooting still life, I mean.
Oh, you wouldn't believe how fast people go.
Okay, all right.
I've got like 10 minutes.
Well, that's true. You got 20 frames a second, man. You should be able to get that job done in under 30 seconds, start to finish, including setup.
And so you were kind of at the mercy, as it were, of the food preparers and the cooks and who's ever doing that work, and they're saying, "Okay, it's ready. You shoot it now," and that's that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking about that today in my presentation a lot. Is that it's. My entire workflow and setup revolves around the food because food dies quickly, ice cream melts, drinks melt, things are falling apart on set, and I need to be ready as soon as the food's ready, and you can never predict when it's ready. So it's definitely, and I think that has changed because of technology, where it used to be, and people are always asking, is the food real? And nowadays it pretty much always is real. There are multiple occasions where like a fake ice cream is made because of like specific time constraints or something. But it used to be that food was always fake and had to be plastered and using oils that are like for your car instead of the kitchen and that stuff. But because we can move faster with equipment and be prepared and have live view and all these cool things, that it's a lot easier to do real food.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that quite often for food photography, the food itself isn't even prepared to be eaten. It's prepared to be photographed.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I'd say like maybe 20% of the time.
That's all. Oh, okay.
Most of the time it's completely edible. The only thing it might be missing is salt, because why waste the salt if you're not going to see it?
True. Okay. I know the best way of making grapes look nice and fresh with that little bit of frosting on it is Sure deodorant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was told by food photography. We use it all the time. Makes the grapes look great.
I haven't used much deodorant. I'll have to try it out.
All right.
Take it out of context. That could be damaging.
I'd say so. So the 85 is one of your go-tos, and then you're happy with the Zoom, the 24-70.
Yes.
Macro lenses, do you get in close with those?
The 100 I use a lot. Definitely for macro stuff. Great for drinks. And
do you shoot motion, or is it always GIF that comes out of individual stills?
I'm not very often shooting motion like traditionally. Video, I have made a lot of cinemagraphs, which
that's interesting.
When I started making them in 2015, it took a lot of convincing, because I told my editorial staff that like we had to have a crazy budget to shoot like 4 cinemagraphs a day, and because it's just such a crazy process. I think we ended up like at the end of the day taking it through like 8 different programs to get it down, and these are for like huge websites for a Condé Nast publication. So after you're shooting with a red, and then you go to process this thing down, and essentially photoshopping, stitching the video and the still together, and bringing it through all these softwares, and then getting it down to 4 megabytes. Cinemagraphs they're fascinating, great for food, because it's kind of creepy when you use models. It's like if the cinemagraphs I've seen of models, it's like they're stuck in this frozen pose, and then their hair is like blowing. Yeah. And you're like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. Like,
so those are eventually GIFs too, right? A cinemagraph? Yeah.
Yes. The file
downsize it, right?
Can also be a GIF, but I think I ended up having to create a container file to put them on the site at like 4 megs. It was.
So what's the difference between a cinemagraph and a stop motion?
The cinemagraph is forever looping. You wouldn't be able to. You don't have a stop and a start that you can see well.
Yeah, it's really hard to find. Every once in a while, you see when that wasn't done well, but that's the difference. They're just forever.
It just looks like a loop.
Yeah, a smooth one. Yeah.
Oh, it's real smooth.
Yeah.
Where stop motion's kind of jittery, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's more frames? Is that what it is? Or is it? It's not video, right?
It is. Well, in the case that we shot them, we had to shoot video because there were like some that were like, I have waffles with like syrup dripping, and we had to slow that video down to get that like luscious drop. And then you essentially are shooting it a bunch of times and waiting for like the perfect drop that happens and stops that you can like start again. So like sifting through every single drip and like finding that like 5-second clip that can then loop forever.
Oh, so it's a looped video basically.
Yeah. And then there are programs that allow you to kind of blend the two, where you can like crossfade almost, and like it's subtle enough that you wouldn't notice in some things. Like I have another one where like we're pouring milk into coffee, and it's like it just kind of blends nicely that like you don't notice that it's like starting and stopping again and blending into itself.
I'm assuming you're shooting everything on a tripod, and what do you use, and what's your thoughts on tripods compared to other versions of support?
I am obsessed with Phobos. They are my go-to, because there are so many times where I'm in situations where I have to stitch images together because the food is perfect, but we need the drink to be, the food already died while we were trying to do something else, but we have it in a previous shot. So we get the drinks right and combines together. Right. Phobos are great because my assistant can fall on it and it won't move. Like it's great.
The Phoba ball head is probably one of the best ball heads ever made. They're Boku bucks, but they're perfect. They're really nice. They really are.
Really hard to get through doorways. That was when I was working at Condé Nast. We had this one room off of a studio that, like, whenever the studio is busy, you could also shoot there. But the FOBA had to be brought into this room, so we had to bring it through like 4 different doorways, and I was really jacked during that time, constantly moving FOBAs all day.
Well, if you get enough momentum, you just push them right through the wall. They'll go through concrete, cinder blocks.
Yeah, on the 35th floor of the World Trade Center. Great.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and then I love the gear heads as tripod heads. Manfrotto 405 is mostly the one
I've used that one a lot. Those are really nice.
It's really smooth. The precision and adjustments you can make with it are really, really great.
And for what you're doing, you do need a geared head. You can't just estimate and then lock it down. It doesn't work that way, because as soon as you lock it down, it's moved.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Sure. And the 405 is a nice unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Cool. So, Chelsea, if people want to see more of your work, where should they go?
My website is chelseakyle.com. It's spelled like Chelsea in New York, CHELSEA. And my Instagram is Chelsea Louise Kyle.
And worth taking a look at.
Yeah, check it out. It's great.
And I'm also on my agent's site, Hello Artists.
Hello Artists? Okay, very good. All right. Chelsea Kyle, thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you guys. It's such a blast to be here. My first podcast.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks.
Our next guest has been called many things. We're just going to call him Mark Farb. Mark from Sigma. Anyway, Mark, you are a return guest to our show. It is like, what, the 3rd time you've been with us already?
At least.
At least. And you're with us at all of the depth of field and optics shows. You're a regular here. Anyway, what's happening? What's some new toys coming out with?
Well, actually, the latest product that we have is the FP camera.
Yes.
So this is part of the L-mount alliance between Panasonic and also Leica. So it's using that L-mount lens on a totally new platform camera, which is kind of interesting, unique, and cool altogether. It's the smallest mirrorless camera body on the market right now. And it's 24 megapixel still camera.
Full frame.
Full frame.
And not Foveon.
Not Foveon yet. As well, there was an announcement for the delay of the Foveon version of it that was supposed to come out this year. Kazuto Yamaki actually just put out a release saying, not yet. It's not ready for prime time. We don't know time-wise when the Foveon version of the full-frame sensor will be coming out. So currently what we have is the 24 megapixel full-frame camera, and it does 4K cinema, so you can actually do 4K DNG RAW in 8-bit, or if you want to bring it down, you could actually do 12-bit in some lower resolutions, which is kind of cool. We've actually had a couple of firmware updates to work out a couple of little tweaks here and there. I know there's supposed to be another firmware update coming, which has tons of interesting things, which we haven't gotten all the details. But I know it's supposed to be really chock full of good stuff. The camera is really cool and amazing because you could use it as a still camera, as a cine camera. You can accessorize it with a cage, without the cage. You can use it as a pocket camera to walk around. Right now, we're selling it as a camera body only or as a kit with the 45 millimeter lens, which the reception on this 45 millimeter lens is absolutely astounding. It's a tiny little lens and it's incredibly sharp. It's got a mechanical aperture control on top of it, kind of like the film days, which is really neat. But you can also click it back over like the old FD cameras into auto mode and have full auto capability from the camera, which is also kind of neat. You've got ISO ranges in the lower ranges from 6 all the way up to like 114,000, 120,000 or something like that. I've done a few images with higher ISO ranges and they're breathtakingly clean. So I just got my sample not too long ago, so I'm still kind of playing and working out what I can do with it. The fact that I can record to an SD card or I can actually plug in an external hard drive and record much longer videos or stills. So for argument's sake, I like to do panoramas, and I'm not talking like 1 or 2 frames. I'm talking like 400 or 500 frame panoramas. So I can actually go out with a terabyte, 2 terabytes and shoot an entire night and not worry about 14 different cards and, oh, did I mix this card or that card? The fact that I can put from 14 millimeters on up to 600 millimeters in focal length right out of the gate. We've got about 12 lenses readily available in direct L mount. We have another adapter, the MC21, which is just like the MC11. So you're able to put on all the Canon EF mount lenses in the lineup. So the zoom lenses that aren't available yet in L mount can be put onto the camera. We have 2 new zooms that are in the L mount and also in the Sony mount for the 1424 f2.8 and also the 2470 f2.8. So they're half the size of the traditional lenses, which is kind of mind-bending to most of the people that have picked them up so far. Quality is right on par with everything else that we've made. It's been an interesting ride for the last several years. I mean, since we've introduced the art, sport, and contemporary line of lenses,
you guys have exploded.
There's not a dog in the bunch.
No,
they are. One is sharper than the next, and I keep getting asked the question of which is my favorite, and the hard question to answer, or the hard answer is, well, what am I shooting today? So I've got an arsenal of lenses. I can reach into the bag and say, I've got the right lens for the right job, and then on top of which you've got the cinema lenses. So which are all the glasses from the Art series lenses, so they're all color matched. They're dynamite.
Is there a roadmap for the Art lenses at this point? Is there anything left to be done? I think
there is no roadmap from Japan, which is again something that's not easy to work with because we get questioned all the time, and people look at me like I'm lying to them. Like, no, really, it's when it arrives, here, sell this.
I'm personally waiting for the 12 to 600 millimeter 1.4, the one that's only 3 inches long,
made of unobtainium.
Yes, that's only right.
A lot of the vendors are like that, though, right? I mean, where, they don't tell you what's coming until it's here.
For the most part, the manufacturers tend to be a little tight-lipped, and especially in the more recent years, there are always leaks that happen somewhere along the lines. But it would be interesting to see a roadmap of what they're thinking as far as longevity. The only thing that I know or was told is that within a year of the release of the FP camera, pretty much there should be 78 lens choices available for the system.
Okay,
so that's pretty incredible for an entire system to have that much access.
I want to come back to the FP because I think it's interesting that it's being advertised as the world's smallest full-frame camera. Mirrorless camera. To me, the idea of this camera is that it's really the first modular camera, in a sense, to come out. And the camera, it's real tiny, but that's only part of the picture because, again, like you said, what are you using it for? If you're using it for cinema, there's a cage, you could put anything on it. It's designed to be built upon. At that point, it's no longer small.
Correct.
It's like any tiny camera. You put a 70 to 200 on it, guess what? It's not small anymore.
Well, that's like if you're doing production video and you go in to buy a RED. The RED body is tiny.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you throw on, whether it's a Canon zoom, Angenieux, Cooke, or something like that, suddenly you just added a 3-foot lens to the front of that camera.
And then you got the monitors, and you got the audio, you got everything there. Before you know it, you're carrying a Volvo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is no different.
Okay.
And like any other camera body, you go into a store, you go to buy the camera body, and then you decide, okay, well, what direction am I going? Am I going to be a sports photographer? Am I going to do journalism? Am I going to do street photography? What do I want? Personally, I would love to see some more small, tiny pancake-style lenses. If they happen, no one knows.
John's looking for one. If you come across one.
I tell you, I mean, again,
and I like Sigma.
I just worked with a customer this morning, and she insisted that she wanted the FP, but she wanted lenses even tinier than the 45. Like, to be quite honest, it's not going to happen. Not without an adapter, not without going manual focus, and you're kind of looking to do street photography on the fly. 45 is your only choice right now. It's not a bad choice. It's a great choice, as a matter of fact. But she wanted something even smaller, less conspicuous. I'm like, well, that doesn't really exist right now. You're one of millions of people who are asking for the ultimate camera lens combination. That
I think Minox makes this tiny little 2-megapixel thing. It's like the size of a coin or
with
a key.
the 16 millimeter film.
Yeah. Anyway.
What are people asking for lens wise? I'm thinking, and art series wise, is there something that is kind of glaringly? Is there a gap somewhere?
I mean, obviously people want more macro lenses. Right now we only have the 70 millimeter macro, which is a true art lens. The 105, which is the predecessor to all the art, sport, and contemporary glass, is still left in the lineup. But suddenly you discontinue, a 150 to 180 macro, and everybody comes out of the work. Oh, I want one.
Macro. Yeah.
Oh, I want a long macro.
Well, that was also a really, really fine lens.
Both
an amazingly good lens.
Yes. I mean, even the older versions pre-stabilization were amazing because of the size.
Yeah.
Once they added stabilizers, the lens tremendously increased in size. But that's, again, people want smaller, lighter, and they don't want to carry something like that. So they don't remember the days of film when you had an RB67 and 3 lenses and it was 40 pounds of gear by itself. Forgetting the film backs, forgetting the rolls of film, forgetting the train case, and all the other stuff that went along with it. So people have gotten a little spoiled in that respect.
What's up with the DP cameras? They're still making them?
They're still out there. They're still there.
Okay, good.
Again, the Sigma Foveon clientele, there's a very, very devout fan base. They are very rabid fans, which is cool. I belong to a bunch of those social platforms, and I love seeing the images. I love listening to the chatter back and forth. Again, the thing about the Foveon chip, it produces incredible images. You just have to take your time.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily going to replace.
It's not a speed camera, but it's an interesting camera, and I've used them on a couple of occasions, and I'll tell you, the image quality is pretty remarkable. I used to have trouble with the reds.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the reds are better now.
Yeah.
Okay. But the whole concept I happen to love. I really do.
So again, it's one of those, depending on your conditions and what you're willing to do to create your imagery, they are dynamite little cameras. And even the bigger, the Quattro interchangeable lens platform, again, you've got to understand what you're working with. You're not going to take a medium format camera and go shoot a football game because it's not designed for that. If you do and you want to stage an image, or you know that you're going to painstakingly wait for that one shot and take your chances, well, good luck. And you can make it happen, but you're not walking away with 10,000 frames.
Mark, last night I was at an opening of a show, a guy who shoots Formula One racing with a 1913 Graflex. You should see the pictures he's getting; they're great. But that's a whole other story.
But again, it's one frame and in an hour, and it took him an hour. It's 5 laps before he figured, okay, where's my point of focus? And then it's one frame, and it's either I got it or I don't.
Is there anything else? Any other new gear, new lenses, anything else you want to throw at us?
Honestly, you've got the Sony E-mount, the 1424 and the 2470. Everybody keeps asking for 70-200. We don't have that yet.
Next.
Again, it's one of those that we're waiting for it on bated breath, but we don't know.
Right. Talking about for the E-mount.
Yeah.
So you got the first 2, and then you get the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I carry the 1424 in 3 different mounts in my backpack because it's that important of a lens to me.
Okay.
I love it. It is probably one of my first go-to lenses for most of what I'm shooting these days.
So the 3 mounts are the E-mount,
E-mount,
Canon,
no, E-mount, Nikon, and now the L-mount.
An L-mount. Okay. What about the SA mount? I mean,
it's not going away that I'm aware of, but it's proprietary too with the Sigma cameras. Sure. So as long as those Quattros remain in production, they're there.
They're there. Great.
Okay. You've been on the show several times now, and I don't think we've actually discussed your work, and I think it's important to mention that we have a lot of representatives from different camera companies and lens manufacturers on our podcast. Mark happens to be a very good photographer, and you specialize in a lot of aviation stuff, and I've seen you jumping out of planes many times.
I haven't jumped yet.
You haven't jumped yet?
I haven't jumped yet.
You mean you stand by the door making believe?
Well, not making believe. It's I'm tethered to the doorway.
Okay, all right.
So with the experiences that I've had over the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot more of the aviation, which is again become a first love.
And a lot of others. I mean, you use the gear and you're good with it. You're actually a very good photographer.
Thank you.
Which I can't say about a lot of the other reps that come through here. They go, look what I took with this picture. Oh, that's great. No, your stuff is really, really nice.
Thank you.
It really feels good.
I very much appreciate that.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us again.
Much appreciated. Thanks for having me again.
Pleasure. We're here with Jason from Sony. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are a return guest. You've been with us before, right?
I have, unfortunately.
Almost a year ago, if not exactly.
That's right.
Anyway, Sony's had some pretty cool products this past year. The A7R4 is out, and some new lenses and stuff. Tell us about, by the way, a whole bunch of us upgraded in my department this past year. I want you to know that.
Oh, great.
Yes.
I hope all happily
Yes, we're all very happy people.
Good.
So anyway, what's cooking over at Sony? What you got that's new?
Yeah, I mean, rounding out the end of last year, we were really, really busy, obviously. We 7R4 and then that one camera of the year from DP Reviews. That was lights out. The camera itself was amazing, and then you get the publicity behind it, and boom, just nonstop. Phone won't stop ringing.
It's kind of the it camera, I think, right now.
Well, it hits so many niche markets. Like it's amazing for video. It's amazing for stills. It's amazing. Like if you use wildlife, you have so much extra resolution for cropping. Like it's the right tool for so many different jobs that it ends up being so popular. And then we piggyback that and announce the A9 II, which originally, I think, the plan was, okay, well, this is going to be like a nice upgrade for some, and it's really geared towards like the Olympic shooters. But then everyone was like, well, I want all of these features too. And so it ended up selling just amazingly, and it's been nonstop good press. And because they really took what was amazing about the A9 and just tweaked the couple things that people want to change, some ergonomics, literally nothing giantly major, but all of those added up to a major enough upgrade that people are super excited about it, and myself included. That camera, I never leaves my bag.
So that's your main camera?
Yeah, the Alpha 9 Mark II is my main camera. I don't have as much need currently for super high resolution because I'm not doing much printing, and I don't crop so much. I do a lot of it in camera. I also have the added ability to have all the lenses from Sony, so I didn't have to buy them.
Nice little advantage you got there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a little spoiled there. But
you're just like, what's the most expensive one?
That's the one. Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. What a life. Now, when the Alpha 7R4 came out, obviously 61 megapixels, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes.
How many people are still sticking to the 3, which is 42? Because I know for me, I mean, I upgraded this year. I had a 2, and I was going to go to the 4. And I actually decided to go to 3 because I didn't want one really have these monstrous files. Is that a big issue for a lot of people, or how has it been breaking down?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it an issue, quote unquote, because like the 3 is still very much current. So the Alpha 7,
beautiful camera, yeah.
And so it's just kind of another tool in the arsenal. Some people want super high resolution. They need more resolution for whether it be cropping purposes or large printing, or they just want super detail, depending on what they're doing, fine art or something, or landscape. So you're doing a lot of wide angle landscape stuff. You need each little pixel to pick up every little detail. So for those people, the R4 is an amazing camera. But the R3 is still current because some people don't want 61 megapixel images. Like the files are big. They're going to fill up your card. They're going to fill up your computer. So you have to be
and slow everything
ready
down.
for that. Yeah.
And it's a major upgrade.
Yeah. The R3 is still killer camera, 42 megapixel. It hits a very specific market that like that resolution seems to have, where most cameras seem to have capped, previous generations. Everything was like right around that 40 mark, and that would hit the mark for so many people for their needs. So they're both very much current. It's the R4. Brought with it some of those ergonomic upgrades that
there were some different, absolutely,
but nothing giant like that. The big difference was the resolution, and it has some tweaks to the autofocus system. It can do the real time tracking, and so that was a big advantage for some as well. But if you bought an R3, obviously it's still very much an amazing camera. And honestly, one of the things I was most excited about when we announced the R4 at 3,500 was that the R3 dropped to 2,500, and so to me, the R3 just 2 weeks before we announced the R4 was like one of the best cameras you can get at $3,500, and it was killing the competition and all this. And then they announced the R4, the R3 drops to $2,500. I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever. You can now get an Alpha 7 R3 for $2,499. You can't beat that.
So this is one of the few product intros where I've noticed that there's a lot of debate amongst people between buying the replacement camera and the one that's being replaced. They would stick with the 3 or go to the 4, and a lot of it had to do with basically the size of the sensor and the amount of data that's being recorded. I know for me, one of my considerations was I did not feel like upgrading my computer and getting bigger, faster cards all over again. And I was good with my A7R2. So to hear, it was just I got some good improvements. I already knew what the sensor did. But it was interesting that worked out that way.
Yeah, it's all having the right tool for the right job.
Exactly.
And like the 7R4 didn't like replace the 7R3. They're now both in line. So it's like kind of just another option for those people. And there's a number of factors that would weigh into that. And one of them is the right camera for you. And there were so many things, and I would see them at the B&H kind of asking those exact questions. Well, this one's better, right? Because it's newer. No, it has some things that are better. You might like this might fit better. It was just finding the right tool for the right job.
Yep.
I have a quick question. Are you guys finding that medium format users are seeking the A7R4 rather than buying a new medium format camera just because of the the crazy resolution?
Yeah, it's actually a great question because that's the thing. Medium format people have always been kind of a level above. They viewed traditional DSLR form factors, mirrorless or not, as lesser than, because medium format was this step up. And this Alpha 7R4 is the first camera that kind of piqued their radar as, whoa, we're talking about some serious resolution. And then you mix that with its capabilities to do the 16-shot pixel shift, giving you a 140 megapixel image with more color information. And so all of a sudden they were realizing, okay, well, so the resolution's there. And then they started to realize all the things they can't do with their medium format body as far as just sheer flexibility, the size, but also the speed, the autofocus capabilities. Agility. Yeah, like you name it, there are... Nobody bought a medium format camera for any of those things. It was just the image quality. So now we offer a camera that has very high-end image quality with all those extra bonuses. So yeah, I've been getting lots of calls from studios who've primarily been only medium format. They've never even called anyone who made a 35 millimeter sensor. And they're like, would you mind coming in and showing us what you got? Because we're trying to do these different shots we've never been able to do with the medium format body. And now we want to see if your image quality is up to snuff, because they want all those other benefits.
Yeah, that's so much more agile.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing you'll never be able to do is replicate the look of a larger format with the optical look and stuff. There's always a little bit different look, but as far as tonality and sharpness and grain, all that, I mean, you're there. There's no two ways about it.
And the look is different, but like, it also depends what they're in. So many of these studios, their end product ends up being Instagram or Facebook anyway.
Well, I know. Now, here's something that is another issue that I try to tell people when they start looking at cameras above 40 megapixels, that how good are your lenses? Because these cameras now, when you start getting to 50, 60 megapixels, your lenses have to be absolute prime, because I have a few lenses in my own arsenal that I used to love and trust, and they were the best. They're not the best anymore because my sensor is out resolving them.
Yeah, that's more of a problem for the older brands that have been making lenses for so long that they kind of didn't see where it was headed in the future. And it's hard to future-proof everything. So that's kind of a funny advantage Sony had, that because we were just started making the E line of lenses, the E-mount line of lenses recently, they were already thinking, well, okay. And plus Sony makes sensors. I don't know. Did you know that Sony makes image sensors?
Yeah.
We've been known to dabble. So I think they had
every once in a while you sell them to other companies too, I've noticed. Yes.
So I think they had kind of a better perspective of, okay, we know where this could go. So let's just, even from the beginning, like we were just talking about some lenses like the 55-1.8, for example. It's one of my favorite lenses we make. I use it all the time. It focuses fast. It's crazy sharp. It's literally one of the first lenses we made in the E-mount line. And it holds up on 61 megapixel. Like, these lenses were made to handle that. But yeah, to your point, there's older companies that when these lenses came out, they were for film. They didn't have digital at all. And then digital was 3 megapixels, 6 megapixel. We're now 10 years removed from that. The game has changed in a way that I think a lot of these engineers couldn't have even imagined when they first designed, autofocus lenses.
Well, even a spheric surface is one of the reasons why they're so common right now. Is they started coming about in the film days, because film technology was getting to a point where the manufacturers saying, the film is better than our lenses. Now we have to do something else. And that's when the spheric surfaces started to come into it, because they realized they had to start tweaking the optics to keep up with the film technology. And now digital just goes way beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's up the ante. Anything new coming down the pike that you could tell us about? Actually, even if you can't tell us about it, you could tell us, because we won't tell anybody about it.
Oh, okay, good. Mics are off.
Yeah, this is safe room. So anything you could tell us about?
The only people that listen to this thing is us anyway. So.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even have headphones on. I haven't been listening either.
Yeah. I don't know what John's doing. He's like staring out the window.
I'm sure I'm not the first person in this chair to say this, but I obviously can't speak about future products.
It's not going to stop us from trying, though.
Of course, I respect the question, but no, I mean we're just coming off the release of the Alpha 9 II, so right now that's all I could think of.
Okay, all right. Now, so just from my thing, any chance at all? And obviously you can't answer this, I already know. I love that RX1, but I need a wider lens on it.
The RX1R?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a sweet look. It's a great little camera.
It is.
I need wider than 35, though. Are you guys going to do anything?
I'll get right on it.
Okay.
I've heard many things about that. Like, I would love to see a refresh of that camera. Like, I know it's an amazing camera. And to this day, still, people rave about it. The image quality is amazing. The way if you've ever seen one taken apart, the way the rear element of the lens butts right up against the sensor, it's super, super cool. But yeah, I would love to see I've always wanted like one with a variable. Like, remember those old Leica lenses that had like 2 focal lengths?
The
Trielmar.
Trielmar, yes.
Like, I would love something like that.
Yes.
But, I don't know. I've sent that up the chain before.
Yeah, well, now that's 2 of us saying it, and that's twice as many people. We've doubled the demand.
That'd be great.
Let's hit him again.
Nah, for right now, that is the current camera, and I have no idea what they plan. But we can hope.
Yes, we can. All right. Okay. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. Sony cameras are wonderful. They've certainly changed the industry. No 2 ways about that.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, so that's a wrap of today's episode. And again, today was Depth of Field 2020, hosted by B&H and sponsored by Canon, Nikon, Sony, Profoto, Sigma, and HP. We appreciate all of their help in bringing this conference to fruition. And in future episodes, we're going to be speaking with several of the speakers who were here at Depth of Field Conference to find out what they're up to and the kind of work that they're doing and new trends in photography. My name is Alan Weitz, and on behalf of Jason and John, bye-bye.